world economic situation and prospects for
growth is uneven, and it is often failing to reach the countries and the groups where it is most needed. Per capita incomes will stagnate or grow only marginally in 2019 in several parts of Africa, Western Asia, and Latin America and the Caribbean. At the same time, the world economy is faced with a confluence of rising risks with the potential to severely disrupt economic activity and inflict significant damage on longer-term development prospects. In the case of a downturn in global economic activity, policymakers around the world will struggle to react forcefully because monetary and fiscal space in many countries is now much more limited than it was at the outbreak of the global financial and economic crisis a decade ago. And, given the waning support for multilateral approaches, coordinated action in response to the shock, or any shock, similar to the response to the global financial crisis, may be more difficult to achieve.
Term and over the longer term. Some of these were already.
What we have hitherto viewed as long-term challenges such as climate change have now become increasingly short-term risks. In recent years, we've seen an increasing number of extreme weather events that have had a particularly damaging effect on vulnerable countries, including many least developed countries and small island developing states. Building resilience by supporting the most vulnerable countries to invest in climate-resilient infrastructure is as important as rebuilding after a disaster.
And that stands out quite clearly when you look at it
The world is faced with a whole range of problems that are truly global in nature. One of these is climate change. The essential transition towards sustainable consumption and production patterns is simply not happening fast enough. Our economies remain far too dependent on carbon, energy, and the use of resources. We need much stronger links to decouple, to delink economic growth from environmental degradation. And this means shifting our resources away from investments in the old brown technologies toward investments in new, more resource-efficient and low-carbon technologies. To the global economy and the associated development challenges, some countries are doing reasonably well, but others that aren't. By the same token, income levels are varying across the world. Inequality has risen within countries. And what we see happening is that more and more people are registering dissatisfaction with the outcomes of our global system without having their policymakers explain to them what actually is going on. And so that frustration then makes for a growing readiness to, let's say, be receptive, if you will, to nationalist arguments, to saying, let's do what is best for us individually, as a country, as a nation, rather than the support for the multilateral approach that we've seen over the past 40 years. And we think that that is a real problem because it does undermine the ability of the world to deal with some of our global problems in a collective manner.